Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brian Hamilton.
Before we jump into the show, I just want to thank my sponsors and collaborators. 3D Network Technology, reliability is our core value. Visit www.3dnetworktechnology.com. And Genetec, delivering security strategies for healthcare. Visit Genetec, that's GENETEC.com for more information. We'd also like to thank the Change Execution Group and 360 Life Transformations. Visit www.360lifetransformations.com. We'd also like to thank Canadian Security Magazine and Omnigo Software. And now, let's get into today's show. Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast. I'm joined today by Will Plummer. Will, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now I'm going to ask the first question I ask every guest. Who is Will Plummer?
Well, Will's a retired Army guy who's trying to figure out how to live in corporate America and how to solve some of the problems that we have in front of us. That's a pretty generic answer, but that's pretty much who I am.
Okay, perfect. Well, actually, since we started off there, do you want to take us kind of through your career path and what led to you being where you are today?
Sure. So I joined the Army early. I ended up playing around in the infantry for a couple of years, which, what every 18-year-old does when they don't really think about the outcome of how to do something after that. And then I switched over to EOD. I joined the bomb squad and basically spent my career either helping diffuse threats or manage problems or travel all over the world and kind of see and do and be a little bit. And then I got to the end of my career. I hit 25 years and basically had very little in plans. I was looking at, the joke is continually, I'm going to Home Depot to cut 2x4s because you know what? That's very low stress. And my COO and founder of the company that I work for found me and said, I need an EOD guy up here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And I respectfully said, no, you don't. And lo and behold, he did. So it's been a great experience inside of corporate America, but it's also was not something that was expected. So that's kind of how I got where I am. And the company I work for, we work through security, threat, and risk mitigation stuff.
All right, but I guess I'll ask today: Are you happy that you gave up your career at Home Depot?
Yeah, I never got there. I am happy with it. I've since gone over, and that guy doesn't look as happy as I thought he once did. So.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, no matter what you're doing, there's going to be some sort of stresses. So
yeah,
it's better that you enjoy what you do.
Right, that makes sense. I'm learning that this side is fun. I get to do a lot of problem solving, and I really enjoy it.
Awesome. All right, so actually, let's go there. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do right now?
Yeah. So I'm the CSO for RaySecur. What we do is mail security and provide a way to screen mail before it gets into the hands of somebody who's being targeted or a company that's being targeted. So what we do is have a millimeter wave scanner that basically allows you to see inside of packages. So if you look in the news, Rand Paul, for example, just got a white powder threat a month and a half ago. Dr. Fauci came out earlier this year with what happened to him last year, where he ended up being decontaminated. He said he had a kiddie pool in his skivvies. And because we can see powder and stuff rolling around inside of packages, that's where we excel. And the reason why we're doing this today is we've had a lot of hospitals come out and have been recently looking to increase security for a myriad of reasons. But it started with the VA clinics, and now we're kind of working our way into other facilities as they realize that they have physical security requirements. And it's just the reality of it.
Absolutely. So I guess in terms of the work that you're doing today and some of the success that you've seen, can you talk to us about that, unpack that for us a bit?
So what we generally work with, the company started working with was corporate America. So CSOs trying to make sure their CEOs weren't getting white powder ending up on their lap in the boardroom, that the corporate headquarters wasn't getting shut down because somebody sent a bunch of powder or a possible IED or some other threat in. We've seen great success with it. We have most of our clients are corporate Fortune 500 companies, and we have helped them with everything from illicit material A lot of corporations, since especially since the pandemic, you end up with drug dealers don't stand on the street corners anymore. Now they just mail stuff. And most of the people who live with people who have a problem acknowledge that they have that problem. They know it. So when it shows up to the house, they usually have there's some sort of strife there. So now it just goes to the workplace. And a lot of companies are trying to figure out legally what they will and will not allow inside their facilities. And we've had a lot of success with that recently. It's been drug interdiction, and then we've had a lot of prisons. So another thing about COVID is everybody assumes that drugs that were going in was coming in through visitors. The reality is when they took away all the visitors because of COVID, the drugs never fell off. So it's either coming through employees or it's coming through in the mail. And we've been finding that it's going through in the mail quite a bit. So again, illicit materials, that kind of stuff. So we've been successful. It's been increasing recently. And corporate America, when they moved from the boardroom and when the CSO stopped having to worry about all their C-suite people being, in the main facility behind their own firewall, behind their own walls every day, they all moved home. Well, now you have to deal with the problem at the house too, and there's no X-ray there. So we actually can put this thing that we do anywhere. And again, it's been quite successful through the pandemic.
Awesome. Now, can you talk to us a bit about the equipment that would be deployed?
Yeah. So we have a millimeter wave scanner that basically looks like a desktop printer. It's non-ionizing. There's no radiation. You don't have to have any certifications. So anybody who can screen the mail, and it can be done anywhere. All hospitals probably have X-ray machines. So you all are running dosimetry programs and everything else already. This doesn't have any of those requirements. And the reality is most people, especially the hospitals we've been working with and some of the administrative facilities, the people who do that work have little to do with security and a lot less to do with any way to get near an X-ray machine. So it's usually an administrative person who has little to no security background that we do some training on. We show them what they're looking for, and then they just start screening for threats in their normal day-to-day operations. Hospitals are one way, or medical facilities, you identify your own high risks. One of the reasons why we looked at the VA clinics was because you do have a very interesting, I'm a veteran. There's a very interesting clientele there. And if you have frustrated clientele that go to a VA clinic, they have very different reactions than most other people. So that's one of the reasons why we're working with them. But yeah, it's basically as simple as putting a printer in. It takes no time, and you can start screening day one.
Absolutely. And actually, if you wouldn't mind breaking that down a little bit, because I know a lot of people who are tuning in are in Canada, the VA clinics.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. For those who aren't familiar, again, I'm familiar just through the work that I do, but for those who aren't, could you talk to us a little bit about that?
So Veterans Administration they run hospitals throughout the United States and around the world, actually. So if you are a veteran, and I am one, and for example, I use my VA clinic in my VA hospital. I have great service through mine. They are regional, and some of them have a harder time than others with funding, and with other, people are spread farther out. And the people who go there are veterans, and a good chunk of those veterans recently have been combat vets, and there's a little bit of expectations that people have, and oftentimes it's hospitals has a hard time meeting those. So you end up with frustrated people that go to those clinics. And what we find, corporate America, and then all the work that we're doing, is mail is a very easy way to reach out with frustrations. So if I don't like what something was done, or I don't like the outcome that I got, I can simply write whatever I want to inside of a letter, drop a threat, drop powder, or whatever you're going to do, and send it off, and I feel vindicated. I don't have to put my return address, so often I feel like I'm alone and nobody's going to figure out what happened or who sent it. And that's most commonly what we see is insider threats, somebody who knows the inner workings of a facility or location, and they're either doing something illegal or illicit, or they're trying to, harm somebody or cause loss of time. And that's just kind of the reality of it. And I don't know the stats on VA, but I will tell you that some of them have a higher problem set than others, just because of where they are and how far vets have to travel and that kind of stuff.
Thank you for that explanation. And no, it's definitely a unique set of challenges for the VA versus a conventional healthcare facility.
Yep.
Now, the other thing I'm curious about, because you did mention that anybody can run one of these scanners. Yep. There's not a special, there's not any special I guess requirements that are necessary for someone to be an operator. But is there any training that's provided in terms of just what to look for when
Oh
people
yeah.
are scanning packages?
Yeah, so we do about a 3 hour training set with our clients before they start, and it shows you how to screen. More first off, most importantly, why you're screening. A lot of people who work in these environments don't necessarily know or understand what could possibly come at them. So how to screen is the second thing. What you're looking for. Mail, for example, is inherently dirty, and a lot of stuff that just shows up isn't even necessarily intended as a threat, but it is hazardous material and that side stuff. Then we also have online stuff that we do. So we hold you know virtual training, conference training all the time with our new clients and with anybody who needs it. And we hold quarterly webinars. Mail is a very interesting problem. People don't necessarily look at it as if it's a they look at it if it's a systemic problem. People always see mail as an individual event, and that's not necessarily the best way of looking at it. I've talked to CSOs who have said things like, "Oh, I don't have a mail problem." Well, I had that gun in the mail last week. We just thought the guy was shipping something illegally. And 3 months ago, I had that hazmat team that was around my desk because I opened up that white powder letter. And 8 months ago, we had the thing for the CEO that really looked weird. You have a mail problem, dude. You have a problem with your screening. It's on your desk. There's already an issue there. So we talk about all those things. The webinars get after what's happened in the last 90 days and how to train your people and how to best solve these problems efficiently, effectively, and as cheap as humanly possible.
Awesome. Now, well, you brought up the one thing that I wanted to get to eventually, but you said as cheap as possible. So, in terms of pricing, because that's again, that's always an issue, no matter what facility you're working in when you're looking at security. What are we looking at for costs in terms of getting set up?
For our system, for most facilities, if you're looking at it's about $1,500 a month, just much like a printer. That's kind of where we wanted to put cost at, so you can do it in your operational funds. That includes training, all upgrades, AI, the hardware, 24/7 reach back. That's the other service that we provide. One of the reasons why a mail security company would have an explosive orange disposal technician on hand and my team is because we provide 24/7 support. So if somebody thinks they found something's questionable, they give us a call, we dial into the unit, we look at the imagery and tell them yay or nay, or if it is we think it's something, the best way to mitigate the risk. So the biggest cost savings that we've been identified and we've identified in the last several months has been the false positives that we remove, so nobody ends up in a parking lot for no reason, and the fact that you don't necessarily have to handle everything the same way. So yes, if it's an IED, that's a suspect package. You have to handle that. There's really only one way. It's separation, time and space. But if it's anything something simple as hazmat problem or it's a threat, you can do as simple as throw it away all the way up to call your local administrative number for a police department. So we kind of give a lot of different options for anybody that's having to deal with these problems.
And what are the areas that you currently serve?
Most of our clients, like I said, are Fortune 500, but we have so that's corporate headquarters. That's facilities that move a lot of money and are higher profile, but don't necessarily have the security infrastructure. A lot of large companies will have 500 locations, but they'll have one that has 9 people in it. It just happens to run $90 million worth of stuff a year, and that's a high profile problem. All the way down to like prisons. We have lawyers. We have everybody that you can imagine that would be on the Sunday morning news shows on either side yelling at each other. We end up with all of them. We try to stay agnostic on everything, and the most recent one has been hospitals, which is why we're sitting here talking. We've had a lot of reach out from facilities that realize they have a physical security problem, and they're trying to figure out how to solve it without overburdening their administrative teams, who are the ones who are most likely handling mail and what we provide security for.
Right. And just from my conversations, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot more from healthcare facilities, anyways, and security directors is just the risk that their executives have been facing
Yeah.
since the beginning of this pandemic. Has that kind of been the same thing that you're seeing as to why people are reaching out, or are there other reasons as well?
No, that's since the pandemic went off. There's all the hot spots, and the the medical field is one. I mean, I call it is what it is. There's anti-vaxxers out there who have sent suspect packages into vaccination clinics. They've sent them into AstraZeneca was hit at their main facility in the UK. It shut them down for 18 hours. That 18 hours cost who knows how many hundreds of thousands of doses that didn't go out when we were first getting the vaccination kicked out. Canada had a big push where they had 7 or 8 of their facilities. There were testing facilities that were being targeted. It's interesting to see how the public reacts to somebody's personal opinion or personal views. And like I said, mail is it's kind of like a temperature gauge of things that will follow on. It's usually an early function of somebody's aggression that will then increase. So you end up with, if you look at active shooters, there's almost always a premeditated action that's a lot less violent ahead of time. And oftentimes it's sending in threatening letters. So it gives you a good idea of who they'd be going after, what you need to pay attention for. In regards to your leadership, they are high profile. You represent a very controversial, in some people's eyes, place in society, and they're all open. And most hospitals and medical facilities are public knowledge, so you don't have secret, board members. Everybody can figure out who's on what board and who's talking to who. And if money's not getting spent where somebody feels it's appropriate, or they're representing somebody that they don't feel should be represented, you can expect backlash. And hospitals are a fairly soft target most of the time.
No, absolutely. Now, obviously, given your experience, you've seen a lot of things. Is there anything that, since you've started in this role, that's kind of thrown you off or surprised you?
Yeah, so we had a couple of the presidential candidates that we supported, and some other high profile judges, and you'd be surprised at how personal people can get. It's shocking on one end that somebody would be that personal in their attacks or their aggression, and then on the other side, some of the random weird things I've seen, like medical testing facilities. We've got one that we've been talking to, and they if I say what they take in, you'll know who they are. But basically, they screen for a type of cancer, and so you spend money to have something that you can get tested, and you send it in. People put stuff in the box. You spend money, like we get bullets in these boxes of people's specimens, and we don't know why people keep putting bullets in there, but we keep finding bullets inside of your own specimen. It's got your name on it. It's got a barcode that goes directly back to you, but you're still putting stuff in there. So aside from the threats that are really personal, things like that are interesting. We've got a couple other clients that they've got problems with hardware coming back with biological items on it, blood, feces, all that kind of stuff, and it's just, you don't know why, but people do weird stuff.
Yeah, that's very bizarre. Now, I guess kind of back to more regular things. Let's kind of focus on the company a little bit more. What can we expect in the future? What are some of the things that are on the horizon?
So I track all the threats that come out, and one thing that you can expect is a lot, and it's actually happening now. So a lot of government and local and state government are getting white powder threats. It's kind of like when we were all in junior high, people pulled a fire alarm, we all end up in the parking lot. It's the same thing. Now you know what day you can get this threat into it. You know somebody's gonna open it, you're gonna get reaction, they're gonna get evacuation. Funny, it's in the news. Well, it's actually evolving now. So after January 6th, judges, anybody representing either side of the people that were involved in the January 6th event, they have all been getting hit across the United States, because that's where everybody who was part of that event was everywhere. City government functions like DMVs keep getting hit. And it's moving more towards a mainstream, where it was to get somebody in the news. Now I'm going to shut you down for a day because I don't want to go in and refile my driver's license, or I don't want to do my court document that I have to go do. So I'm going to evacuate you for the day and get an excuse and a 90-day extension. I would think that you're going to continue to see increase in the healthcare world. That's a side that we've been talking to more and more often, whether it's testing or if anything to do with the new Delta variant and new byproducts of that is probably going to end up with an increase in threats as well. And anybody that represents somebody, I don't want to name names, but like people who donate a lot of money and have their own companies and their own great way of trying to give back to society, they are going to continue to get hit. and a lot of them have to do with hospitals. So a lot of your donors, I would expect, would have issues. A lot of the people are high profile. It's happening so much now. It's in corporate America. It's every company sees it 3 to 4 times a year. We're looking at the private side. I see 10 or 12 a week, and they're not high profile. Most of the time, it's a city government or hospital or somebody getting hit.
Now, just in respect of your clients, obviously, without mentioning any names, are there any mail services or shipping services that are currently using you? Because I know it's just another way to eliminate some of those threats, or at least identify them early on as well.
Yeah, we've got a few partners that we work with, and that's usually based on, like, if you go inside any large company or corporation, and I bet that healthcare is the same. The person screening the mail doesn't have the real company's address. They're a third party. Most of the time, it's a vendor or it's a contractor that's doing those administrative tasks. And hospitals are most likely the same thing. You have a third party vendor that comes and does it. So to answer your question, yes, and that'd be the smarter way of doing a lot of this. But what we found in most of our clients and most of the companies that we talk to or deal with is they don't actually want to take the time to do that. There have been quite a few companies that do that screening, and they've gone on to do other tasks. Many of them that were security related now are all doing digitization. So instead of mail ever getting to you, you get an email, whatever it is. So that's becoming more common. The downside is somebody's still got to open it up, and somebody's still got to handle it. So duty of care, you have to worry about your own employees. But people do it. It's just not as common as you'd think, especially some high profile folks that you really would think would want to make sure everything is physically screened. It just gets walked up and puts in the CEO's hands oftentimes.
It's really interesting, and as you mentioned as well, the digitization of things, because that comes with its own unique challenges as well.
Yep.
So
especially around medical facilities, because you have PII, personal information, data loss, all of that is part of that, and it's happening across. I mean, almost every jail in the United States is trying to digitize it, but then there's certain stuff you can't do. You can't digitize legal mail. There's things that have to be hard still handed to somebody from point A to point B.
absolutely. Now, is there any special message that you would like to share with the healthcare security cast community?
Yeah, and I say this to everybody, but the big thing is, like, I'll give you an example. I know what's going to hit up in my mailbox every day. I get an email. Technically, my wife gets the email. Like, she knew when I got jury duty before I did and called me and laughed about it, right? But that's a security function, and it's a free security function. A lot of what you could do to increase your security is something that it's simple. It's a visual and tactile inspection and paying attention to what's going in and what's going out. If you lay off 40, 50 people, or if you have a subcontractor that you just, are having a problem with, be aware that early on, that's probably somewhere you want to pay close attention to. They're no longer inside of your walls, but they know what your walls look like, and they know who people are, and they know where they work. I would definitely add a screening program in place. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. It doesn't have to be. I mean, our system is fantastic, and we use it in a lot of places, but that doesn't mean it's the first line of defense. The most of what you can do for free. Put it in place. Make sure you have a screening program. You can reach out to us. We have SOPs we can help with. We have all sorts of mail related tips and tricks just to get people at least started doing something, because it's a little scary to walk into a facility and realize that nobody's even looking at it. It's just getting passed off. And a lot of the people in your facilities are high profile. There's a lot of money going on and around healthcare world, and there's a lot of points of contention. And doing a little bit, even if it's just letting people know you're screening, is often a heck of a deterrent.
Absolutely. Now, if we want to connect with you, or if we want to learn more, what are the best ways for us to go about doing that?
Website's one, raysecur.com. It's got no E, RAYSECUR, no E.com. The other one is my email. We can add to that if we want to. I'm pretty straightforward. It's will@raysecur.com. The other thing is we have a lot of data out there. Like I said, we do webinars. We have our big thing is trying to teach and inform and flatten the curve a little bit so that everybody understands, the simple things that will get them through whatever problem they're looking at. If you have a more complex issue, hey, we can help you solve that too. But the simple things are often simple.
Oh, well put. Well, no, I appreciate it, Will. I appreciate the insights and appreciate learning more about what you do and how it can help healthcare facilities, because there's, again, definitely under attack in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of value to what you're doing.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate it.
You're very well.
It's fun.
Thank you. The Healthcare Security Cast is available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music and Audible, and many other platforms as well. Check out our Linktree on your computer or mobile device. And this can be found at linktree/Brian Hamilton. That's linktr.ee/Brian, BRINE, Hamilton. Again, that's linktr.ee/Brian Hamilton. Or if it's easier, send me a text at 647-372-2042. That's 647-372-2042. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have or share any links you may be looking for. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, take care and stay safe.